Hello, everybody, and thank you for being here today. Our practical lesson for students of educational program, Life Safety and Environmental Protection. Our discipline for today, Basics of Fire and the Technical Assessment. For today, it's practical lesson number 3, Creation of a version about the cause of the fire of cars. I am a senior lecturer of Department of Field Aerology and Labor Protection, Amirgalina Ayjan Karatqızı. Okay, let's begin. The purpose of the work. To form students' understanding of the choice of the fire tactics in firefighting and setting the goal of providing them with theoretical and practical skills in solving the problems of fire technical assessment when inspecting fires at enterprises and organizations. Objectives. As a result of studying this topic, students will be able to master the mechanism of occurrence and the development of fires at facilities and the tactical capabilities of fire departments. Next, mastering methods of extinguishing fires at economic facilities. Study of the basics of the organization of fire technical assessments. And next, last one, develop skills in providing and verifying expert options. Okay, let's show our plan for this practical lesson. It's introduction. First question, the fire of cars. The second question, signs by which versions of the cause of the fire are checked. The third question, methodology for checking versions of the cause of the fire. For the fourth question, crash, and the fifth question, arson. And in the end of our lesson, we will check control questions and show list of references. A car isn't only an object of increased danger, but also a complex technical device that combines various equipment and the systems that not only improve it, but also complicate it. Despite the improvement of such systems, the possibility of car ignition cannot be ruled out. Ignition can occur not only as a result of deliberate or careless actions of third parties introducing an ignition source into the car from the outside, but also due to manufacturing defects in proper operation. A car fire is an emergency that threatens not only the loss of valuable property, but also threatens the life and health of the driver and passengers. Forewarned is forearmed. Every driver should know the potential sources of ignition of a car, methods of preventing dangerous situations, and the measures to extinguish a fire. In our article, we will consider the main technical causes of car fires, measures to prevent such situations, as well as a procedure for action in the event of force majeure. Let's watch signs by which versions of the cause of the fire are checked. First is according to position of the established hears and the characteristics of development of the fire. The second, on the behavior of persons who may be related to the cause of the fire. The third, by the nature and the condition of the alleged ignition source. The fourth, for specific manifestations of the cause. The fifth, by the time of the fire. And the sixth, according to the peculiarities of the situation that preceded the fire and developed at the time of its occurrence. Next question, methodology for checking versions of the cause of the fire. Exclusion methods when investigating versions of the cause of the fire. Practice shows that most often when establishing the cause of a fire, the method of exclusion is used, which deserves a lot of attention in this sense. The generalization of the experience of fire technical expertise indicates that the widespread use of this method is one of the features of establishing the cause of the fire. It is impossible to associate the cause of the fire with versions that do not correspond to certain circumstances of the cause. Factory design flaws. Oddly enough, but even with the current level of design and the production of cars, consumers are sometimes faced with the fact that their cars are unsafe. In particular, their fire is possible. Then the manufacturer conducts a recall campaign and removes the dangerous defects free of charge. Of course, this doesn't raise the rating of the company, but it is much more important to prevent a fire, even in 1 of 1,000 cars. Improper engine wash. Washing the motor with high-pressure water jets and the unprotected electrical components can cause a fire. How does water cause a fire? It's simple. Damp elements of the ignition system give out a spark intermittently. The injectors regularly supply fuel to the cylinders, but it doesn't burn there, accumulating in the catalytic converter. And then an explosion may follow, the neutralizer will spread, and the wave of incandescent gases will set fire to the mastic at the bottom of the car, or the thermal protection of the engine compartment. improper service. When carrying out maintenance, personnel can grossly violate safety regulations in a car service. And at the same time, the car can burn out right there, or even together with the entire structure. And there are times when something isn't tightened or sealed. The result is a leak of flammable fuel. I personally took part in repairing such leaks twice. Once the reason was the unlatching clamps of the fuel pipe on the filter. The fitting was torn off after 15 minutes of engine operation. The filter itself was located in the engine compartment. Another time, during repair work at the service, the gasket of the fuel pump model was secured. At the very first refueling, to full flammable fuel flowed in a stream under the car. In both cases, it didn't come to a fire. Fuel tank full. If you leave the car in the sun on a hot day immediately after refueling under the neck, the fuel from heating will begin to expand and drip from the filler neck. A random spark or a hooligan stab is enough, as the fire becomes inevitable, so you can feel in a gasoline not only from a can, but also with a pistol at a regular gas station. Next. Gasoline leak under the hood. Any gasoline leak under the hood is dangerous, as it can be ignited by an accidental spark and hitting a red-hot exhaust manifold will definitely cause a fire. After all, the auto-ignition temperature of gasoline is about 250 degrees, and the collector sometimes glows cherry color. Heats up to 6,600 degrees. One advice: don't allow fuel leaks, especially gasoline. Gas system. The gas cylinder power system of a car, especially one that isn't installed at the car's manufacturing plant, poses a certain threat. For example, the system includes safety valves to prevent cylinder pressure from exceeding, but they bleed gas most often into the luggage compartment. And if you look there holding a cigarette in your hands, remember that a car on gas requires strict adherence to fire safety measures. Let's talk about crash. In case of an accident, any fuel lines can be severed. The fuel tank can lose its tightness. A random spark from broken wire harnesses is enough, and the spreading puddle of a gasoline turns into a wall of fire. One advice: if you can, try to get out of the vehicle as soon as possible. And if you are an eyewitness, but cannot get people out of the mangled car, then quickly discard the terminal from the battery. Just make sure that this terminal is no longer wet with gasoline. Okay, the next is arson. The most disgusting fire in a car, at least from a moral point of view, is arson. Of course, different options for the development of events and relations between people are possible. But I love cars too much. I respect too much the work of people put into them, and I will never approve of this way of resolving the conflict. The advice is simple. Do not conflict in your own and in someone else's yard, on the road, at the entrance to the house, and just in any parking lot. In conclusion, I want to wish you that the sparkles keeps in your car only the spark plugs and in your eyes from the pleasure of using a working car. It is known that when arson is committed, the mechanism of criminal actions that caused a fire is reflected in the environmental already during the formation of the initial criminal situation, which develops immediately at the time of the fire. This is expressed in the form of a system of traces of certain actions which ultimately led to the occurrence of combustion in the fire site and the creation of conditions conducive to its accelerated development. In the overwhelming majority of cases, at the initial stage of the investigations of fire, it is impossible to determine with complete certainty whether arson has occurred or to exclude its possibility. From a forensic point of view, the commission of arson is inherent in some specific manifestations that serve as a basis for the advancement and the verification of this version. Such manifestations include: first, direct indication of eyewitnesses to the commission of arson or the threat of its implementation in the period preceding the fire, as well as the presence of motives for committing acts or revenge. Next, signs of combustion of flammable and combustible liquids, for example, flammable and combustible liquids, in the form of characteristics odor in the initial period of fire development, characteristics traces of spreading and the burning out of flammable and combustible liquids on the surface, as well as the detection of the trace amounts during preliminary studies. Next, detection during the inspection of the scene of separate, unrelated, two or more independent causes of combustion, etc. When setting fire to cars, various flammable liquids are used as combustion imitators. Most often, the flammable liquid is spilled onto the surface of the car. The most common place is the windshield. Knowing the technical features of the car, you can determine the direction of movement of the liquid and the place of its accumulation. When inspecting a car, you can find handprints on various surfaces that have not been exposed to thermal effects. However, at low ambient temperatures, it is necessary to move the cars to the box. In most cases, after a fire, the car is not on the move. It becomes necessary to transport it using specialized equipment. After the vehicle has been evacuated, it is necessary to carefully inspect the site to find material evidence. The main task of the investigation of arson of cars is to identify the person who committed this act. A fire in a car is a phenomenon causing material damage, entails the onset of legal consequences. Next question is how to avoid a fire in a car. The car, depending on the circumstances, can burn to the ground in a few minutes. This often happens in front of the car owner himself. The most common cause of fires in a car is a short circuit of electrical wiring. Often, cars start to burn due to incorrect installation of a radio or alarm system. And an opened cigarette is another source of ignition. At best, only a hole in the seat cover will remain, but the entire interior may burn out. Do not relax and those who have a car running on gas. Gas equipment, also considered relatively safe, requires constant monitoring and maintenance. In addition, the cause of the fire may be a leak of fuel and other liquids, so motorists should regularly look under the hood of their car. There are cases when cars caught fire from dripping oil or even antifreeze. Leaks occur at the joints. The combustible mixture gets on the heated engine parts. Gasoline vapors flare up from the slightest spark. Further, everything depends on the driver's promptness and the availability of a reliable fire extinguisher at hand. The next, what I want to say is about battery explosion. The hydrogen released from the battery during charging or lighting can explode so much so that the top cover of the battery will rip off. Everything around will be in acid. In this case, the elements in the engine compartment can also be engaged from the flame at the moment of the explosion. Never allow sparks near the battery. Closing the wiring. This defect is especially dangerous if the owner disregarding the warning in the form of a blown fuse puts another and a more powerful one. Wires overheating begin to melt the insulation, and it can catch fire. A new fuse is installed only after the cause of the short circuit has been eliminated. Cigarette lighter chargers and non-standard gadgets. It is unpleasant if a very low quality product, be it a heated seat cover or a fan heater, melts and sets fire to the cigarette lighter socket. But it is even worse if these are non-native radio tape recorders, amplifiers, and other color music. They try to connect them with thick wires directly to the battery. And if a short circuit occurs in such a circuit, then the fire cannot be avoided. I recommend only a professional connection and preferably through fuses. Pedal jacket. In winter, many people insulate the engine compartment so that the engine cools down more slowly. But it's one thing a branded, non-combustible car blanket, and another thing an old quilted jacket thrown over the engine. Do not do this to avoid fire. In the next question by our plan, what to do if a fire in the car still occurs? First, inform the rescue service by phone 101 and 112. Try to extinguish the fire with improvised means before the arrival of firefighters using a fire extinguisher, dense fabric, earth, sand, or snow. If it is not possible to extinguish the fire, move away, as the fuel tank or gas cylinder may explode. If the car is burning in the parking lot or in the garage and there is a threat of fire spreading, try to roll back the car standing nearby or the car that caught fire. Ask for help in extinguishing passersby, passing drivers, and residents of nearby houses. It is dangerous to start extinguishing a fire if you are wearing clothes soaked in fuel, vapor, or stained in fuel oil, as well as if your hands are soaked in gasoline. In any case, do not get into a burning car and do not try to start it. Okay, let's show control questions. First is define a car fire. How does water cause a car fire? How to avoid a fire in a car? How can improper maintenance of the car lead to a violation of safety regulation and to fire in the car? Why is it impossible to allow fuel leakage under the hood? On what grounds are the versions of the cause of the fire checked? Why is the study of a car fire essential not only in the criminal law aspect, but also in resolving issues related to the payment of insurance compensations? What should a specialist fix when inspecting a fire site? What should be done after inspecting the fire site? What manifestations from the forensic point of view serve as a basic for putting forward and checking the version of arson? What is used when setting fire to cars as combustion imitators? Okay, it's a list of reference. You can use it if you need some add information. With this, our practical lesson come to the end. Thank you for your attention and see you next practical lesson. Goodbye.